Have you ever found yourself thinking intensely about someone, only to receive a message or phone call from them at that exact moment, or suddenly come across them on social media? Or maybe you woke up with a strange heaviness in your chest, not knowing why until later you discovered that person was going through something deep. At the very same time, it might seem like a coincidence, but according to Carl Jung, meaningful coincidences don't really exist. What he called synchronicity is actually a reflection of a deeper, unconscious connection between two people. Synchronicity occurs when two unrelated events happen at the same time, yet carry profound meaning for the person experiencing them. It's the soul trying to speak in a language that logic doesn't always understand. And when there's a strong emotional, energetic, or even spiritual bond between two people, these coincidences start happening more often. These aren't just things you imagine. Something invisible is moving beneath the surface. Jung believed that the unconscious isn't just something within each of us, it also connects us to one another. He described the concept of the collective unconscious, a web of shared symbols, emotions, and archetypes that unite all humans, and when two people are connected even unconsciously, they begin to resonate in the same space. And that's why it's no surprise that when you think about someone with intense emotion, they may be thinking about you too. Not because you decided it, but because you're internally tuned into the same frequency, like two instruments playing in perfect harmony. Imagine two hearts beating in separate places, yet aligned to the same invisible emotional rhythm. This isn't science fiction style telepathy, but a subtler and more real form of connection. Unconscious empathy, intuition, an emotional vibration that links people across time and space. This video is for you if you've ever felt something was happening, even though no one said a word. If you're wondering whether he feels something too, even if he doesn't show it. And if you want to discover those almost magical, yet very real signs that show you and that person are thinking about each other at the exact same moment. Today I want to share with you 10 signs that may reveal this invisible emotional connection. Signs that, according to Carl Jung and depth psychology, are not products of imagination, but gateways to a truth the soul instantly recognizes, even if the mind tries to deny it. Get ready, because what you're about to discover might change the way you see those coincidental moments that touched you so deeply. You may come to realize that he carries you in his heart too, even if he hasn't said it yet. Synchronicity isn't just a nice coincidence. For Carl Jung, it's the way the universe, or the collective unconscious, communicates with us. When two people are emotionally connected, synchronicity can appear in subtle yet powerful ways. And if you can't stop thinking about someone and notice that this person starts acting differently, becoming more withdrawn, more attentive, or simply more present without any obvious reason, you might be sensing the effects of a synchronous connection. But how does this happen? When two people share intense moments, deep emotions, or even silent tensions, an invisible thread begins to form between them. This bond doesn't rely on logic or constant communication. It's rooted in emotional memory and internal vibrations stored in both the body and mind. Have you ever felt like you could sense his mood before even speaking to him? Or that you knew something was wrong before you got a message or call? That's not just your imagination, it's your unconscious acting as an emotional radar. Jung explained that our strongest emotions don't just stay in the conscious mind, they sink into the unconscious, where they continue to resonate. And if he also felt something powerful in your presence, his unconscious stores that same energy, and sometimes activates it at the exact moment you do. But there's something even deeper. When two people think about each other, even in silence, they may begin to project images, memories, and emotions. These projections, moving through the collective unconscious, can align in time, like two signals finally meeting in the same frequency. That's why, on those days when you feel him closer than ever, he might suddenly reach out. He might text you for no clear reason. He might even react emotionally to something you never directly showed him. It's an emotional echo, a quiet symphony between two hearts that still remember each other, still seek each other, still resonate with one another. In real life, this shows up in subtle ways: a glance that meets yours at the exact moment you need it most, a post that feels like it was written just for you, recurring dreams, songs that play at precisely the right time. Nothing is truly random when there's an unresolved story or a deep emotional bond between two people. Synchronicity, when it comes to love, is the language of a soul in love. It's what happens when there are no words, but the connection is still alive. In the next part, we'll explore the first clear signs that you and this person are thinking of each other at the same time. These signs may not be obvious, but once you notice them, you won't be able to ignore them. Sign number 1, energetic shifts without logical explanation. One of the strongest and hardest to explain signs is a sudden emotional shift with no clear cause. You're feeling calm, balanced, and out of nowhere comes anxiety, longing, melancholy, or even a rush of joy for no apparent reason. Has this ever happened to you? It might be much more than just a change in mood. Jung described the unconscious as a connected web in which our deepest emotions not only affect us, but ripple outward, sometimes reaching those we're emotionally and psychologically tied to. In other words, if he's thinking about you with emotion, his energy starts to move, and if there's a real connection between you, you may feel it, even if he says nothing. This energetic manifestation can take many forms. You wake up with a feeling that doesn't seem like your own. You're suddenly swept by a sadness you can't trace. You feel an overwhelming urge to text him, or you sense his presence as if he might walk through the door at any moment. These emotional shifts are not random. When two people are emotionally connected, especially on a deep, unconscious level, their emotional systems can begin to resonate. It's as if your soul is picking up on the vibrations of his soul. And here's where things get truly powerful. These kinds of signals often appear during moments of inner transformation. He might be wrestling with intense feelings toward you: fear, desire, confusion, unresolved love, and that inner turmoil echoes within you like an emotional mirror. Carl Jung would describe this as a manifestation of what he called the collective unconscious. It's not telepathy, but something even more real: deep attunement, as if the universe is subtly letting you know that you're more connected than you might logically admit. Important to note, these emotional changes aren't always positive. They can be a mix of conflicting feelings, because unrequited love, broken bonds, or unfinished stories also generate intense emotional resonance. So when you feel a sudden shift within you, pause, breathe, and observe. Ask yourself, is this feeling truly mine? Or could I be sensing something from him? That's a powerful question, because it connects you not only to your own emotions, but also to what another soul may be feeling silently alongside you. In the next part, we'll look at an even more noticeable sign, one that appears exactly when your thoughts synchronize, the sudden appearance of external signals that seem to speak of him. Coincidences that aren't really coincidences, recurring symbols, words that show up right when he's on your mind. Sign number 2, coincidences that aren't coincidences. And imagine this: you're thinking about him intensely, and suddenly you hear a song that reminds you of him, or you see his name on a billboard. Someone brings him up in conversation even though you never mentioned him. A post appears on social media with the exact phrase he used to say. Coincidence? According to Carl Jung, definitely not. Carl Gustav Jung introduced the concept of synchronicity, which he defined as the simultaneous occurrence of two events that are not causally related, yet hold deep and symbolic meaning for the person experiencing them. In other words, something external reflects what's happening inside you, as if the universe is responding to your energy. When two people are emotionally connected, their shared unconscious can generate external manifestations, mirrors of what's happening inside. For example, just as you feel ready to move on, a sign appears that reminds you of him. You think about texting him, and he suddenly shows up in your notifications. You dream of him for no apparent reason, and the next day, someone unexpectedly mentions his name. These coincidences are the unconscious speaking through symbols, It doesn't use words, it speaks in images, emotions, and meaningful events. So when the emotional bond is strong, you'll often see signs that help you process what remains unspoken. And often these synchronicities don't just point to your connection to him, they may also mean that he's thinking about you. Because synchronicity can act like an energetic bridge between two souls trying to communicate, even if their egos aren't ready to admit it. But here's an important warning. Not every coincidence holds meaning. What matters is that you stay calm, present, and in tune with your intuition, so you can tell the difference between a soul-driven sign and a reaction from fear or longing. But if the signs are repetitive, intense, and emotionally charged, it's worth paying attention. Ask yourself, what emotion is this moment carrying? What message is trying to come through? What part of me is waking up because of it? Synchronicity, according to Jung, is an invitation to look beyond what's visible. And if both of you are thinking about each other, it's very possible your inner worlds are meeting through these symbolic signs. In the next part, we'll explore an even more powerful phenomenon, how dreams can reveal what both sides are feeling, even when neither of them says a word. Because when the soul can't speak, it begins to dream. Sign number 3, shared dreams and dream symbolism. One of the most powerful ways the unconscious communicates with us, according to Carl Jung, is through dreams. And when there's a deep emotional connection between two people, it often shows up there. Have you ever dreamed about him exactly when you felt he might be thinking of you, or had dreams so vivid they felt more real than waking life? This is not just romantic fantasy. For Jung, dreams are symbolic expressions of the unconscious trying to balance, process, or complete what we can't handle consciously. That's why if you often dream about him, in emotionally intense settings or with powerful symbols, it may be a sign that the bond exists not only in your mind, but in your soul. What do these dreams reveal? In dreams, it's not the specific details that matter most, it's the emotions. Carl Jung believed that the essential part of any dream isn't its literal content, but what it symbolizes. If in your dream you felt loved, protected, or deeply connected to him, it could reflect a profound desire, or even an emotional energy that he too is sending your way, whether consciously or not. Recurring dreams. If you dream about him regularly, it may indicate an unresolved cycle between you. And if these dreams occur during key moments, like when you're close to letting go, it could be your unconscious mind's way of keeping the emotional bond alive. Shared symbolism. Some people experience what are known as mirror dreams, both dreaming of each other around the same time or having similar dream themes. It's not as rare as it may seem. When the energetic connection is strong, two unconscious minds can begin to resonate and project into each other's dreams. And if he's dreaming of you too, even if he never admits it, if the emotional connection is real, his unconscious is active as well. He may be experiencing dreams involving you, even if he doesn't understand them or pushes them away upon waking. But in his inner world, you're already there. Jung spoke of the anima projection, the internal feminine figure every man carries within him. If you embody parts of this inner archetype for him, he may project you in dreams as a symbol of his emotional growth or as a sign that something real is awakening within him, something he doesn't yet know how to name. Sign number 4. Changes in your energy when he's thinking about you. There are moments when you feel a sudden tightness in your chest, a wave of uncertainty, or a deep emotion you can't explain, and then not long after, you find out he reached out, appeared in your dream, or messaged you. Coincidence? Maybe not. According to Carl Jung, such connections can be explained through the concept of synchronicity, events linked not by cause and effect, but by symbolic and energetic resonance. When two people are emotionally connected, their unconscious minds can synchronize. And this synchronization doesn't only happen in thoughts or dreams, it happens energetically. Your body, your emotional field, and your intuition might pick up on it before your logical mind ever does. Energetic signs he's thinking of you. Sudden sense of connection. You're going about your day, and out of nowhere, you feel his presence, a clear image of his face, a vivid memory, without any external trigger. This invasion may be the echo of his thoughts reaching out toward you. Emotional shifts without cause. A wave of sadness, longing, or unexpected joy arises with no external reason. Sometimes that emotion is coming from him, from his own inner experience, which you pick up as if the two of you were radio stations tuned to the same frequency. Physical impulses, goosebumps, butterflies in your stomach, tightness in your chest, or a sudden urge to cry. These can be physical signs of emotional energy moving through you, especially if you are emotionally open to the connection. These signals are subtle but powerful. They are the language of the soul, a form of emotional resonance that crosses distance, time, and even silence. It's a sudden urge to write to him, and if you feel an overwhelming need to contact him without any rational reason, and he replies, "I was just thinking about you." That's a classic example of emotional synchronicity. Jung and the psychic unity of two souls. Carl Jung believed that when there is a true connection between two people, their unconscious minds can sometimes act as one. It's not something you can control, nor something that happens constantly. But when it does, it's felt as a quiet form of love that needs no words, that defies logic, as if part of you lived in him, and vice versa. This kind of bond doesn't always lead to a romantic relationship, but it certainly leaves a deep mark. Because when your energy changes under the influence of the other person's invisible presence, you're witnessing one of the most beautiful and mysterious phenomena of the human soul. Sign number 5, recurring synchronicities. YT. Numbers, songs, symbols. Has it ever happened that you saw his name on a poster, in a book, or in a TV show, exactly when you were thinking about him? Or that a song with special meaning for the two of you suddenly started playing? Or maybe you keep noticing repeating numbers like 11 or 22 right when he comes to mind. This is not a coincidence. Carl Jung introduced the concept of synchronicity, events that are not causally connected but are linked by the meaning you give them. It's the language of the unconscious. The soul does not speak in words, it speaks in symbols. And when the emotional bond is deep, the unconscious finds ways to manifest itself through your surroundings. External signs make you feel his presence, even if he's physically far away. These synchronicities shouldn't be taken as absolute proof of love, but as strong signals that your unconscious is trying to process something important. And when those signs appear on both sides, it's possible that he's receiving them too, even if he doesn't understand why. The question isn't whether the signs are real, but are you ready to hear them? Sign number 6, you feel his presence even though he's far away. It's night, you're alone, but suddenly you feel him, and not in your thoughts, but in your body. As if his energy is wrapping around you, as if his memory is walking beside you in silence. Has this ever happened to you? This phenomenon has psychological and emotional explanations. When you form an emotional bond with someone, the body remembers. This is called somatic memory. It appears in moments of emptiness or longing, but it can also be more than that, a projection of the unconscious, an energetic intuition. Sign number 7, simultaneous mood or behavior changes. You both wake up in the middle of the night for no reason, or you both feel nostalgic at the same time. Even if you're not in touch, you're going through emotional changes in sync. How is this possible? Energy psychology suggests that when an emotional bond is strong, there is a subtle form of communication between unconscious minds. This is what Jung called the collective unconscious, which, in the context of relationships, manifests as a shared psychic connection. It doesn't mean you can read each other's thoughts, but you can affect each other without knowing it. What you feel, if strong enough, can echo in him, and vice versa. These parallel changes are not proof of telepathy, but signs of emotional sensitivity that goes beyond logic. The stronger the unspoken bond, the more noticeable this silent understanding becomes. From Jung's perspective, there are invisible connections working beneath the surface of consciousness. Sometimes, when someone thinks of you intensely, you can feel it, even without contact. Emotional presence leaves a trace. It's not your imagination, it's the perception of something many prefer to ignore, that if a bond is real, it goes beyond physical distance. Sign number 8, silence that is not empty. No messages, no calls. But the silence isn't empty, it's heavy, as if something wants to be said, but can't find a way. Have you ever felt that, even without contact, something is happening on the other side? Jung spoke of how the unconscious can communicate even in silence. Silence can speak louder than words. When there's a deep emotional bond, a shared field forms in which both can feel each other's emotions, even without any exchange of words, as if the space between you is filled with thoughts, suppressed feelings, and unspoken desires. This silence becomes vibrating, almost painful, because you know it's not indifference, it's restraint. Sometimes the silence says, "I'm thinking about you, but I don't know how to come closer," or "I feel you, but I'm not ready to face it." The soul recognizes this kind of connection. Even if he hides it, you feel it. Sign number 9, you feel that he will come back. And he does. You have a feeling, you dream about him, you sense it. And a few days later, he appears. Coincidence, or is your intuition speaking louder than your mind? Carl Jung believed that the unconscious has the ability to anticipate events, not because it knows the future, but because it picks up on subtle signals that the conscious mind misses. If something inside you knows he'll come back, it might mean you're energetically sensing his intention, desire, or even inner conflict. When there's a strong emotional bond between two people, a natural psychic sensitivity develops. Sometimes you don't know why, but you're sure he hasn't really left. And when that feeling is confirmed in reality, ask yourself, what else do I feel that I haven't admitted yet? Sign number 10. His emotional presence calms or unsettles you. He's not there, yet just the thought of him brings you peace, or completely throws you off balance. His memory isn't neutral. It penetrates you, it changes you. Why? Because it wasn't just an ordinary relationship, because he left a real emotional imprint on you, because his energy is still vibrating in you, and in many cases, you're vibrating in him too. When one person has the power to change your inner world, even in their absence, that's a sign of an unresolved emotional bond, maybe due to unspoken love, fear, distance, or destiny. The unconscious doesn't forget, and what we don't express in words shows up in emotions. If you can't ignore him, he probably can't ignore you either. Summary: if you feel him, there's a high chance he feels you too. Maybe there's no proof, no messages, no confessions, no spoken "I miss you." But your body knows it, your soul feels it, and your unconscious repeats it through symbols, dreams, and emotions you can't explain. These 10 signs are not rational proof, but they are a trace, a sign that there's a deep connection between you, even if he's denying it, avoiding it, or doesn't understand it. Intuition doesn't lie. If you think about him and feel that he does too, but you're not imagining things. You're picking up something real that hasn't yet been spoken. Trust what you feel, but also protect your heart. Because while the soul can love in silence, it also deserves love that is shown through actions, not just vibrations. As Jung said, what you resist controls you, what you accept transforms you. Do you know how many women walk through the world without realizing just how extraordinarily captivating they are? And no, I'm not just referring to physical appearance. There is something infinitely more powerful than that. I'm talking about that subtle essence, that unique way of moving, observing, expressing, and manifesting oneself that can leave a man completely bewildered, even if you don't notice it yourself. The most fascinating thing is that you often undervalue it. You believe that because you don't fit into a certain established beauty standard, you can't possibly be that alluring. But what truly captivates us goes far beyond a slim waist or flawless makeup. It's that silent confidence, that authenticity that cannot be faked, that vibration you emit when you enter a space without even having to say a single word. Today I want to reveal to you the clearest signs that you are far more attractive than you realize, and that men, even though we try to hide it, absolutely notice and experience deeply. Some of these signs are so subtle that you might not even have realized how impactful they are, but believe me, we do. Stay until the end of the video because the 9th sign is one of the most overlooked by women, but for us it's one of the most irresistible, I guarantee it. After watching this content, you will start to see yourself from a completely different perspective. Sign 1. Men get nervous around you. This is one of the most genuine and at the same time most underestimated indicators, because often when a man acts clumsily, avoids direct eye contact, or even seems slightly uncomfortable, you might interpret it as a lack of interest. But in reality, the exact opposite is happening. He is more fascinated by you than he can handle. Watch closely. When a man is attracted to a woman who dazzles him, his body betrays him. He starts doing things he normally wouldn't. He touches his neck, adjusts his shirt, crosses and uncrosses his arms for no apparent reason, or he starts speaking faster than usual, or more slowly because he's afraid of messing up. Sometimes he even falls silent, as if he doesn't know what to say. And it's not because he lacks personality or is insecure. It's because your presence throws him off balance. Because there are indeed women who don't just attract physically, they impose. Your beauty, your energy, your attitude can make even an experienced man feel out of his depth. What I'm trying to tell you is that this discomfort is a powerful sign. If you notice that when you're around, a man who is usually relaxed becomes tense, changes his posture, or seems more focused on what he's doing than on what he's saying, believe me, you're having a deep effect. And most importantly, don't dim your light to make him feel more comfortable. On the contrary, embrace that power. Because if a man gets nervous around you, it's because he sees you as someone worthy of much more than a trivial conversation. Sign 2. People glance at you repeatedly, even without saying anything. This might seem basic, but it's one of the strongest and most underestimated signs. When a woman is truly attractive, even if she doesn't notice, the environment registers it. You might think you're just walking by, entering a cafe, or standing in line. But from our perspective, something about you draws attention. It's not just someone looking at you as you pass. What's truly significant is that second look, the one where they've already passed by, but turn their head to look again. Do you know what that means? It means that something about you left an impression that couldn't be satisfied with just a fleeting glance. That second look is the most sincere way a man, or even other women, confirm that there is something extraordinary about you, and it has nothing to do with whether you're wearing something flashy or are meticulously styled. Sometimes it's simply your way of walking, your posture, your calm yet magnetic energy. It's something that isn't forced but can be felt, because true attraction isn't declared, it's sensed. Many women don't notice it because they're focused on their tasks, on their phones, or simply on reaching their destination. But if you've ever noticed that when you pass by, someone looks at you twice without saying a word, believe me, that is an unmistakable sign that you possess something impactful, something inexplicable, yet evident. And yes, sometimes we want to say something, but even just that second glance already confesses more than we realize. Sign 3. You underestimate yourself, yet constantly receive compliments. This is one of the clearest and most paradoxical signs that you are far more attractive than you believe. Has it ever happened to you that on a day when you personally don't feel particularly beautiful, someone still tells you that you look incredible? Or you receive comments like, "I can't quite pinpoint it, but there's something about you that fascinates me." That's not a coincidence. It's a resoundingly clear sign that you emit an energy that captivates others even when you don't notice it yourself. And this is quite common in authentic women who aren't obsessed with being perfect, but who unconsciously awaken something in others. Maybe you think that your hairstyle isn't great that day, that you don't have the ideal body, or that your outfit isn't anything special. And yet, the compliments still come. Why? Because your attractiveness goes far beyond what you see in the mirror. As men, we notice that. Sometimes we don't know how to explain it properly, but we feel it. There's something in your voice, in the way you speak, in how you laugh, in the naturalness with which you move through the world that makes us think this woman has no idea of the impact she creates. And believe me, that is one of the most magnetic things there is. What's curious is that the contrast between how you perceive yourself and how others see you actually makes it even more powerful, because you're not trying to impress, you're not forcing anything, you're simply being yourself. And that authenticity, combined with a natural feminine energy, creates an attraction that's hard to explain but impossible to ignore. So next time someone tells you that you have something special, instead of denying it or brushing it off, believe it, because that something is you. Sign 4. They seek you out for insignificant reasons. This is a classic that many women don't notice. When a man feels attracted to you but doesn't know how to approach you directly, he starts looking for any excuse to interact with you. And often these excuses are about trivial, seemingly insignificant things, like asking if you can help with a particular task, needing you to explain something, asking for a recommendation, or requesting a small favor. On the surface, it seems casual, but believe me, it's not. We men, when we feel attracted to a woman, look for pretexts to start a conversation, to get close without making it obvious that we're openly flirting. And this especially happens when a woman intimidates us slightly, simply because we like her so much. We won't approach you directly with a compliment, but we will show up asking you about any trivial thing just to have you nearby. And it's not just a one-time occurrence. If you notice that it's recurrent, that this person always finds a reason to text you, call you, approach you, or stay close to you even for minimal reasons, there you have a very clear sign, because what they're asking for isn't what really matters. It's the underlying intention. Very often you might not even notice it. It seems normal to you, maybe even charming, but if you observe carefully, you'll realize that those little things are merely excuses for something bigger. Their need to be near you, to connect with you, to capture your attention. So next time someone asks you for help with something they could easily handle themselves, pay attention if it's also accompanied by a nervous smile, a different tone, or an intense look. Because sometimes a simple, "Hey, how do you do this?" really means, "I don't know how to approach you, but I want to be near you." Sign 5. Women criticize you without any real reason. Yes, I know, this part isn't pleasant, but we need to address it honestly. Because when a woman is truly attractive, not just physically, but in her presence, her way of moving, her energy, not everyone around her will react positively. And it's not because you're doing anything wrong. In fact, most of the time you're not even trying to stand out. Yet you might still notice that some women look at you strangely, make passive-aggressive comments, or criticize you for things that honestly don't make sense, as if anything about you was too much, too confident, too beautiful, too polished, or even too friendly. And I want you to understand this, that unjustified criticism isn't about you. It's about how they feel when you're around. Because your attractiveness can cause other people, especially insecure women, to look at themselves more harshly, and that involuntarily triggers a reaction. Have you ever had someone call you stuck up when you hadn't even said a word, or noticed someone trying to compete with you over something you weren't even interested in? There you have it. This doesn't mean all women will react that way. Many, on the contrary, will admire you, be inspired by you, or want to be close to you. But when you start to notice unfounded criticism, uncomfortable looks, or comments aimed at diminishing your shine, don't take it personally. Consider it a sign that you are shining brighter than you think, because your energy, your presence, your way of being can indeed make those who aren't secure in themselves feel uncomfortable. And even though it isn't fair, this is also one of the clearest signs that you are very attractive, even if you haven't fully realized it yet. Sign 6. People smile at you without knowing you. Has it ever happened that you're walking down the street, at the supermarket, or on public transportation, and suddenly someone, especially a man, gives you a smile without any apparent reason? He doesn't say anything, he doesn't know you, he's not even trying to start a conversation, but he smiles at you, sometimes shyly, as if he's embarrassed that you noticed, other times with more confidence, almost as if saying, "Wow, what energy this woman gives off." And even though it might seem insignificant, it's not. That smile reflects what you project. Because when a woman is truly attractive, And again, I'm not speaking solely about physical beauty. It radiates, it's sensed. There's something in her way of walking, of looking, of simply existing that naturally draws people in. And that magnetism causes many men, without you even speaking a word, to feel the impulse to smile at you, a kind of silent greeting, a silent, I like you, but I don't know how to approach you. And it's not a coincidence. It's one of the most subtle, yet most genuine signs that your presence leaves an impression. Because a spontaneous smile cannot be forced, it emerges from the body involuntarily, and that is a direct reaction to the energy you unconsciously emit. So the next time someone smiles at you without any apparent reason, don't dismiss it, don't ignore it, because you're likely not trying to draw attention, you're simply generating it without even meaning to. Sign 7. Men in relationships look at you more than usual. And I know this point is delicate and not necessarily something you'll like, but it needs to be mentioned. When a woman is truly attractive, her energy does not go unnoticed, and occasionally, even men who are already in stable relationships struggle to avoid looking at you. I'm not saying that it's right or that you provoke it, but it happens, and it happens more often than you might imagine. You're at a gathering, walking down the street, at a cafe, and suddenly you catch that look, that lingering gaze that lasts a little longer than it should from someone who is clearly not available. And although they often try to hide it because they know they shouldn't be doing it, their body betrays them. Because attraction isn't always controllable, especially when it's triggered by something beyond physical beauty, something deeper that is felt. And here's something important you must understand. It's not you deliberately causing those glances. It's your essence, your presence, your way of being. It doesn't mean you should feel uncomfortable or much less guilty. On the contrary, it's clear proof that your feminine energy is powerful, magnetic, and hard to ignore, even for those who are supposed to. Sign 8. You receive a lot of attention on social media, even without showing much. This is something many men notice and something you often don't fully realize. You post a casual photo, no exaggerated poses, no revealing outfits, no attempt to seek attention, and still, the messages come in, the likes multiply, and the reactions don't stop. Does that sound familiar? And you ask yourself, what's so special about this photo? But it's not about the photo, it's about you. When a woman is truly attractive, she doesn't need to show off to make an impact, because what captivates is not just what is seen, but what is transmitted. Your authenticity, your gaze, your natural way of being, all of it generates a vibration that even crosses the screen. And believe me, men sense it. In fact, some even fear it, because they don't know how to handle so much feminine energy in such a subtle form. The most interesting thing is that many of you don't even realize it. You believe you need to do more, show more, produce a more curated image. But your real power lies in your natural way of existing. It doesn't matter if you appear wearing a basic t-shirt without makeup or simply sharing moments from your everyday life. That attention you receive without even trying is one of the clearest signs that you are far more attractive than you think. Sign 9. Men get confused around you. This is one of the clearest signs, but also one of the most misunderstood by women. Surely it has happened to you. A man treats you with a lot of attention, as if he's very interested. He seeks you out, talks to you, compliments you, and then suddenly, as if nothing happened, he disappears. He pulls away, but after a few days, he comes back as if nothing had ever occurred. Confusing, right? You ask yourself, is he playing games with me? What does he want? And here's the reality. Many times he's not playing, he's struggling. Yes, struggling with what he feels. Because when a man is truly attracted to a woman, especially when he perceives her as exceptional, that attraction can overwhelm him. He may feel intimidated, unsure of what to say or how to act. So he pulls away, not because he's not interested, but because he's too interested. And here's the catch. You might think he's not into you, when in reality, he's trying to figure out how to approach you without exposing himself too much. Some men run away because they don't feel good enough. Others come back once they gather the courage. But in either case, they're revealing the same thing. There's something about you that unsettles them. So next time a man pulls away for no apparent reason and then comes back as if nothing happened, pay attention. It's not always emotional confusion. Sometimes it's pure attraction. he simply doesn't know how to handle. Sign 10. You don't realize your own power. And this is the most powerful sign of all because something happens more often than you think. The most attractive women often don't know it or don't believe it. They move through life doubting themselves, comparing themselves, questioning whether they measure up, when in reality, they are the ones making the difference. And let me tell you this from a male perspective, it shows. It shows when you walk into a room without trying to draw attention, and yet you do. It shows when you speak simply, without trying to impress. But you end up impressing more than anyone else. And do you know why? Because you're not trying, you're simply being. And when a woman lives in that authenticity, it carries extraordinary power. But here's the key. When you don't recognize it, that power remains half hidden. It's like having a light on, but covered with a veil. When you start to recognize it, not out of arrogance, but from a calm certainty of your own worth, something shifts. Your body language, your energy, your gaze, everything aligns. And believe me, it's felt. It's felt from far away. So if any part of you still doubts the energy you radiate, remember this. Your power doesn't start when someone else sees it. It starts when you accept it. Sign 11. Your absence is noticed even more than your presence. Let me explain that there are women who, when they walk into a room, immediately draw attention. But there are others, and you are probably one of them, whose absence is even more noticeable than their presence. It's as if something dims in the atmosphere once they leave. That warm energy, that natural way you have of making everything flow, suddenly it's gone, and we feel it. And maybe no one says it out loud, maybe you don't even notice it yourself. But believe me, when a woman is truly attractive, it's not just about what she shows, it's about what she makes others feel. And when that presence is no longer there, the contrast becomes obvious. The conversations change, the energy cools down, and without really knowing why, we find ourselves thinking about you. That's what makes you unforgettable, because you don't just arrive, you remain in people's memory, in their skin, in their thoughts, sometimes without even trying, sometimes without even knowing. So if you've ever noticed someone watching you as you leave, or if someone later messages you saying, "Hey, you left," don't ignore it. It's another way of saying, "Your presence moved me." And that can't be faked. It's something you naturally carry. Sign 12. Silence with you isn't uncomfortable. It's intense. Listen closely because very few women notice this, but we men definitely experience it. When a woman is truly attractive, there's no need to fill every second with words. Her mere presence generates such powerful, enveloping energy that even silence becomes magnetic. Has it ever happened that you're with someone and suddenly there's a silence, but he doesn't fidget, doesn't get distracted, doesn't check his phone? He just stays there with you, as if he doesn't need anything else. And that's no coincidence, that's pure attraction. It's not that he doesn't know what to say, it's that he's processing what he's feeling about you. Maybe he doesn't express it, but internally he's thinking, why do I feel so good just by looking at her? How can someone impact me so much without even saying a word? That comfort in silence, that effortless intensity, can only be caused by a woman who radiates something far beyond the physical. A woman who transmits serenity, depth, mystery, and who, without speaking, is already communicating so much. So if you notice that there are silences between you and a man, and yet he doesn't walk away, doesn't get uncomfortable, doesn't rush to change the subject, it's because your energy is already speaking for you. And when that happens, believe me, you've already won him over without even trying. Now I want to know something. How many of these signs have you noticed in your everyday life? Has it ever happened that someone looks at you in a different way, or that you receive attention without understanding why? Tell me in the comments because I'd love to hear your story. Sometimes what you don't see in yourself, others are feeling intensely, and sharing your experiences can help you recognize that power you carry inside you. If this video helped you see yourself from a new perspective, if it helped you understand that there's something about you that doesn't need explanation or approval, then don't leave without liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications. Because here we're not just talking about superficial things. Here we talk about energy, about presence, about that magnetism that can't be bought or faked. It's felt. Never underestimate what you radiate. Your way of walking, your way of looking, your very way of existing leaves a mark. And often, while you are questioning whether you're enough, others are already longing for the chance just to get close to you. So yes, you are already much more than you think. And this is just the beginning. See you in the next one. 99% of women don't do this, but men love it. It might sound extreme, but let me ask you, how often do you see a woman who seems to have it all, yet still struggles to form a deep connection with men? It's not about looks, money, or confidence. The truth is, most women overlook certain small but powerful gestures that make them irresistible. Today, I'll reveal 7 hidden secrets that men secretly crave but rarely admit. These aren't your typical dating tips you've heard hundreds of times. These are subtle psychological triggers backed by science and ancient Stoic wisdom that can transform how men perceive you, making you unforgettable without trying too hard. Imagine this. What if you could tap into subconscious desires most men don't even realize they have? What if you could effortlessly stand out from the 99%, not by chasing or proving your worth, but by understanding what makes a man feel truly seen, desired, and emotionally connected? Here's the thing. If you don't know these secrets, you're at a serious disadvantage. You could be missing the chance to spark an attraction that keeps him thinking about you long after you're gone. That's why you need to stay until the end. The final secret is the most powerful one, and once you understand it, you'll never see attraction the same way again. Before we dive in, do me a favor. If you truly want to master these life-changing techniques, give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the insights that could change your life. Let's begin with secret number 1, the power of touch before intimacy. Picture this. You're on a date, the conversation is flowing, he's laughing, and everything seems to be going well. But something feels off. You sense the connection isn't fully there. He's interested, but not entirely hooked. You leave, text him later, and then silence. No reply. What happened? Most women focus only on words to build attraction. They think a good conversation is enough. But for men, connection is not just verbal, it's physical and emotional. And there's an incredibly underrated way to build that connection. Touch. Not in an aggressive or pushy way, not in a way that makes him uncomfortable, but in a subtle, intentional, and deeply meaningful way. One of the most forgotten gestures that men crave, a simple, gentle massage before intimacy. It sounds basic, right? But here's why it's powerful. For men, emotional connection is just as important, if not more, than physical attraction. A precise, non-sexual touch says more than words. It says, I see you, I care, I want you to feel safe and comfortable with me. It's not about being a masseuse or trying to impress him. It's about presence, being in the moment, making him feel relaxed, understood, and desired, not just physically, but emotionally. The key isn't just the touch itself, but the intention behind it. If you go through the motions, it won't work. But if you're truly present, engaged, and attentive to how he responds, he will feel it. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "Don't waste any more time arguing about what a good woman should be. Don't overthink it, don't make it awkward, just live the moment and let your actions speak." Here's the raw truth. Most women never take the time to understand this concept. That's why they remain in the 99% who struggle with emotional intimacy. But the women who do get it create deep, lasting connections that men can't forget. In a world where most women seek instant gratification and shallow interactions, this kind of thoughtful approach is rare. But when you master it, you become part of the 1%, the women who truly understand what men desire on a deeper level. Now let's move on to secret number 2, flirting with confidence and respect. Most women misunderstand flirting. They either overdo it, coming across as pushy and desperate, or they hold back too much, afraid of making a mistake, right? Men love flirting, but only when it's done with confidence, subtlety, and respect. A woman who knows how to flirt effortlessly stands out because she creates an exciting energy without pressure. Flirting isn't about impressing him with forced jokes or exaggerated compliments. It's about keeping things playful, light, and attractive. Think of it as a dance. He leads, you follow, but neither of you should feel forced to move a certain way. The best approach is to tease him playfully and casually. For example, if he says he loves a certain type of food, you might respond with, "Really, that's the best you've got? Clearly, you've never tasted my cooking." It's a subtle challenge that keeps the conversation interesting and sparks a fun kind of competition. But here's what matters most. Good flirting is not about seeking approval. The moment you try too hard to impress, you lose your edge. Men are naturally drawn to women who are comfortable with themselves, women who can joke around without needing validation. This is where Stoic philosophy comes in. A high-value woman doesn't flirt to win a man over. She flirts because she enjoys the interaction itself. She remains emotionally grounded, never desperate for his reaction. And beyond words, eye contact and body language are key. A confident smile, a slow nod, or a well-timed pause say more than any pickup line ever could. Attraction isn't built on words alone. It's built on presence, energy, and confidence. When you flirt with the right mindset, men feel it instantly. So ask yourself, are you flirting to impress? Or are you flirting because you're enjoying the moment? Master this, and you'll see attraction tilt in your favor. Secret number 3. Why touching his hair at the right moment builds connection. Most women completely overlook this, but men love it when a woman knows how to touch their hair. When done at the right time, it's one of those small, seemingly insignificant gestures that can create an instant emotional connection. But if done wrong, it can feel awkward, forced, or even intrusive. The key lies in understanding why it works. The scalp is one of the most sensitive areas of the body, full of nerve endings that trigger deep emotional responses. A soft and precise stroke through his hair sends subtle yet powerful signals of intimacy, trust, and attraction. It's not just about the physical sensation, it's about the unspoken message it conveys. I see you, I'm present with you, and I'm in tune with your energy. But this is where most women go wrong. They either do it too quickly or mechanically, with no real connection behind the gesture. Touching his hair isn't about absent-mindedly playing with it. It's about creating a moment, building closeness through touch. Picture this, you're sitting with him, talking, and at just the right moment you gently brush a strand of hair away from his face. That simple action, done with intention and confidence, can say more than words ever could. Timing is everything, and this isn't something you do on a first date or before any emotional connection has been made. It works best when he already feels comfortable with you, when there's chemistry and warmth in the atmosphere. If he leans in slightly, if he smiles in a way that invites closeness, that's when you know it's the right moment. The worst thing you can do is force it when he's not ready. That's why presence and awareness are crucial. From a Stoic perspective, this ties into emotional intelligence and self-control. Stoicism teaches us to read situations without reacting impulsively, to remain in control rather than be controlled by desire. That means not reaching out just because you want to, but because it's the right time to create a connection. So the next time you're with a man and you feel the moment is right, don't underestimate the power of a simple stroke of his hair. When done with confidence and intention, it's one of those subtle, rare gestures that leaves a lasting impression. Secret number 4, the subtle power of a hand on his back. It might seem like a small and insignificant gesture, but it actually says a lot. A confident touch on the lower back of a man as you guide him through a crowd or while walking together communicates something deeply attractive: security, confidence, and connection. And yet most women overlook it or hesitate, unsure if they should do it. Men don't need grand displays of femininity to feel appreciated. They respond to subtle, instinctive signals that a woman is grounded, present, and capable of connecting. When you calmly and confidently place your hand on his back, you're communicating, without saying a word, that you are in control of yourself and the moment. It's not about dominance or control. It's about showing him through action that you're aware, grounded, and connecting with quiet confidence. But again, here's where many women go wrong. They hesitate too much, making the moment feel awkward, or they do it in a way that feels forced or unnatural. It's not about being possessive or seeking validation, it's about presence. When done correctly, the touch is gentle yet deliberate, brief but intentional, just enough for him to feel it and register your presence in a way that feels natural and effortless. Picture this: you're walking side by side, heading toward a restaurant entrance. As you take a step forward to open the door, your hand briefly rests on his lower back, just enough to guide him forward without breaking the flow of your walk. It's a moment of silent connection, a gesture that unconsciously assures him he's with a woman who moves with intention and poise. From a Stoic viewpoint, this is directly tied to self-mastery and emotional presence. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Don't waste any more time arguing about what a good woman should be." A Stoic woman does not seek approval for her actions. She simply embodies strength, awareness, and calm control. When you place your hand on his back, you're not looking for a reaction. You are simply a woman with presence and confidence, and that alone is magnetic. In a world where most women are either too timid or too dominant, mastering the subtle balance of this simple yet powerful gesture sets you apart. It shows that you understand the perfect equilibrium between strength and tenderness. Secret number 5, being his support in the small things. Being supportive doesn't mean saving a man or acting like his personal caretaker. Today's men are independent, strong, and fully capable of handling their own challenges. But here's the secret. They still long for a woman who makes them feel valued, not in a dramatic or over-the-top way, but through small, consistent actions that show you're there for them, both emotionally and physically. Most women assume being supportive means stepping in during extreme situations, like when he's stressed or defending his honor in a grand display. But the truth is, it's the little things that build trust and attraction over time. How do you react when someone is rude to him? Do you make sure he feels heard without exaggerating? Do you support him in uncomfortable moments by offering silent but undeniable backup? Men notice and deeply appreciate these small signs of support. A woman who stays calm under pressure, handles situations with grace, and is present without being controlling, that's the kind of woman who makes a man feel truly valued. And in a world full of unpredictable people, emotional stability is rare and incredibly attractive. But let's be clear, being supportive doesn't mean taking control or making him feel incapable. It means you're someone he can rely on when it matters. A woman who doesn't panic, who doesn't escalate situations unnecessarily, but who also doesn't shrink away when strength is required. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes incredibly valuable. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." A Stoic woman is emotionally stable. She doesn't act out of impulse or insecurity. Instead, she observes, assesses, and responds with calm precision. And that is exactly what makes a man feel safe in her presence. When you embody this steady, serene energy, you immediately stand apart from the 99% of women who either overreact or fail to act at all. You become the one woman who doesn't just talk about being strong, she proves it. This technique is subtle but incredibly powerful, though most women overlook it. When done right, it creates an emotional bond that lingers in his mind far longer than any compliment ever could. Here's how it works. During a casual conversation, you say something like, "You know, I had the weirdest dream about you last night." Then, pause. Don't rush to explain. Let his curiosity grow naturally. 9 times out of 10, he'll lean in and ask, "Wait, really, what was it about?" The key is this: you don't need an elaborate or overly romantic situation. Keep it simple, light, and a little playful. Something like, "I don't remember all the details, but we were sitting at a cafe, talking about something deep, and it felt really natural." Observe what this achieves, and it subtly conveys the idea that you feel comfortable with him. It suggests that he occupies a space in your subconscious. It creates an unspoken bond between you. Men are more intuitive than we often give them credit for. They're drawn to the idea that you think of them naturally, not in a calculated way. A dream, something your subconscious created without your conscious control, carries enormous psychological weight. Unlike a rehearsed compliment, This approach feels genuinely spontaneous. It sparks his natural curiosity. He begins to wonder, why would she dream about me? What does that mean? The magic lies in what you don't say. By leaving space for his imagination, you create an emotional resonance that no direct compliment could ever achieve. This is the art of subtle psychological connection, making him feel special without trying too hard. This approach taps into something fundamental in male psychology, the power of mystery and emotional connection. Men want to feel special, but not in a generic, obvious way. When you casually mention that you dreamed about him, you create importance, impact, meaning, without expectation. What makes this so effective? It's unexpected. Most women never think to say it. It feels authentic. Dreams are subconscious, unplanned. It awakens natural curiosity. Now let's frame this with Stoic wisdom. A Stoic woman never begs for attention. Instead, she lets natural curiosity work in her favor. She understands that true attraction isn't about chasing, it's about creating irresistible intrigue. The key is subtlety. Don't overuse it, don't force it, wait for the right moment. When executed correctly, watch how he leans in more, holds eye contact longer, and begins to see you in a new light. Secret number 7. The primal power of a well-groomed personal style. Your appearance is not just a matter of fashion, it's a psychological trigger. Science shows that a well-maintained style subconsciously communicates strength, maturity, and confidence. These are primary signals of attraction, deeply rooted in male psychology since ancient times. When women used their appearance as a badge of honor, female leaders presented themselves with elegance to symbolize wisdom. Femininity was visually expressed. But here's the key distinction. It's not just about looking good, it's about disciplined care. A careless appearance signals neglect. A well-groomed style says, I respect myself and I command respect through my presence. This perfectly reflects Stoic philosophy. As Marcus Aurelius once observed, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Your outer appearance reflects your inner discipline. A well-groomed style isn't a coincidence, it's a statement of composure, a proof of patience, a display of self-mastery. You're not just presenting yourself well, you're creating the image of a woman who is in control of every aspect of her being. In a world full of girls who don't put in much effort, this clearly stands out, creating a strong presence. A well-groomed style doesn't just frame your face, it enhances your presence and defines your expressions. This creates a powerful psychological contrast that men find irresistible, elegance balanced with naturalness. Does this mean you need a sophisticated style to be attractive? Not at all. But if you take care of your appearance, it's a tool worth using. And if you already have your own style, consistent grooming can drastically change the way others, especially men, perceive you. By applying these secrets with confidence and ease, you now hold 7 powerful keys that most women overlook. Each of them activates deep psychological mechanisms, sparking trust, curiosity, and lasting attraction, all without excessive effort. The most important rule: never force it. Real attraction comes from presence, confidence, and self-awareness. If you do all of this mechanically, it will come across as unnatural. Instead, let these principles become a natural part of you. Look for spontaneous opportunities, the moment to gently touch him, to guide him, the right time for a flirty stroke of his hair, the perfect instant to mention a dream. The more natural it feels, the stronger the impact. And what's truly remarkable, these secrets don't just make you more attractive to men, they make you a better woman. When you cultivate confidence, presence, and self-control, you stand out in every area of life. And this is where Stoic philosophy becomes your greatest strength. A Stoic woman doesn't seek approval, she doesn't chase, she simply is. She walks with quiet confidence, she stays true to her values, and lets her presence speak for itself. She understands that true attraction doesn't come from tricks, it comes from who you choose to be in every moment. Now the decision is yours. Will you remain among the 99% of women who ignore these subtle signs of power, or will you apply what you've learned and join the 1% who truly understand attraction? If you're ready to start using these secrets, leave a comment below. Which insight surprised you the most? If this was valuable to you, click like, subscribe, and follow for more content that could change your life. This is just the beginning. There is a feeling many women know, that knot in the stomach that won't go away, that unease that appears for no apparent reason. Everything seems fine on the surface, but inside, something is broken. There's no evidence, no suspicious messages or calls, but there is silence, a void, a gut feeling that no matter how hard you try to ignore it, screams at you in moments of solitude. Infidelity rarely begins with a kiss. It starts much earlier. It starts when he stops looking at you the same way. When his good morning becomes automatic. When the laughter that once was spontaneous now feels like a poorly rehearsed script. It is in those small changes where the soul begins to sense that something is disconnecting. Often a woman doesn't need to find a hidden chat to know something is wrong, because before physical betrayal comes emotional abandonment, and that abandonment is felt. It's like being with someone who is no longer there. It's looking into the eyes of someone you love and realizing you're no longer in them. Like a flower that is still being watered, but has stopped blooming. Carl Jung said people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And that's how many men begin to betray. When they can no longer bear their own inner dissatisfaction, they seek in someone else what they don't know how to build within themselves. It's not love they're looking for, it's anesthesia for their emptiness. And you, as a woman, feel it. You notice how he no longer asks about your day, how his responses are short, hollow, how he no longer checks if you got home safe, but still expects you to care for him as always. That emotional asymmetry is the first crack, the first sign that you're giving more than you're receiving. And when you confront him, even with just a look or a gentle question, his attitude shifts. He gets defensive. He tells you you're exaggerating, that you're being paranoid. And that's where the most subtle form of manipulation begins. When your intuition is treated as a problem instead of being heard as a warning sign. You're not crazy, you're waking up. Have you noticed that something in your relationship no longer resonates the way it used to? And it hurts. Of course it does, because you're still betting on love while he's no longer even betting on the truth. Emotional infidelity is a silent betrayal. It's being physically present but emotionally checked out. It's abandonment that leaves no visible marks but empties you from the inside out day by day. And many times they hide it masterfully. They use work stress, I have a lot on my mind, fatigue. But it's not physical exhaustion, it's emotional distance, it's disconnection disguised as routine. It's the mind and heart being elsewhere while the body stays. It's like living with a ghost that still has a name. And you feel it because female intuition doesn't need tangible proof when the soul is already sensing the absence of love. There's something in the energy, in the silences, in the missing gestures. There's no more tenderness, no more intimacy, only a kind of forced companionship that feels colder each day, like a room that once felt like home, but now is just a place to sleep. And there you are, doubting yourself, doubting what you feel, searching for reasons to justify the unjustifiable, wondering if you are the one failing. You're not. What's failing is not your perception. What's failing is the connection that once existed and is now broken. And no one has the right to invalidate what you are feeling so strongly. This is the loneliest stage of a relationship, when there's no visible betrayal yet, but emotional absence already exists. When you're still fighting for something he gave up on long ago. When you cling to memories because the present no longer supports you, you are not alone. You are not wrong for feeling what you feel. You are becoming aware. You are starting to see. And though seeing hurts, the truth is much more freeing than living a lie. Because the truth, no matter how painful, is always kinder than self-deception. A woman who listens to her intuition begins to walk toward her truth. And the truth, however uncomfortable, is always the first step toward freedom. Because no one deserves to be loved halfway. No one deserves to beg for attention, presence, affection, or respect. Trust what you feel, because if something no longer vibrates with love, it probably is no longer love. Infidelity doesn't start with one body on top of another. It starts when he shuts down emotionally and switches to autopilot. When he stays with you, but is no longer truly there. When instead of conversing, he replies. When instead of listening, he nods. When instead of seeing you, he looks at you without really seeing you. And you feel that emotional blackout as if suddenly the lights had gone out in the house where love once lived. Many believe infidelity is the result of a sudden opportunity or a moment of weakness, but the truth is that it's usually a process, a slow internal decay that begins with a silent disconnection, with the emotional decision to stop choosing you every day. It's a slow abandonment, almost imperceptible, that makes no noise but causes deep pain. Carl Jung spoke of the concept of the shadow, all that we deny in ourselves, what we repress and refuse to face. And when a man doesn't take responsibility for his shadow, for his emptiness, his boredom, or frustration, instead of confronting it within himself, he projects it outward. He begins to seek what he feels is missing, without realizing that what he's missing is not another woman, it's himself, because a person who has not met himself will inevitably get lost in others. Infidelity begins when he no longer has the courage to tell you that something is broken, when he prefers to keep playing a role instead of facing the truth, when he stays out of inertia while his soul is already looking for an escape. And the problem isn't just that he pulls away, but that he often tries to keep up appearances. He acts as if everything is fine, but there's no feeling in his gestures. It's like he's living on autopilot with a faded smile and an absent gaze. He starts speaking less, or speaks the same, but without soul. He no longer looks at you the same, no longer shares his thoughts or dreams. His "I love yous" are recycled phrases, and there is no more novelty, no curiosity, no real presence. He answers you while staring at his phone. He listens with part of his ear, but his mind is elsewhere. And you, of course, notice it. You feel like an echo. You're there, but you no longer resonate in him. You notice when he stops laughing with you, when the humor you once shared fades, when spontaneity becomes routine, when you realize you're lonelier with him than when you're truly alone. That is the most painful kind of betrayal, the one you can't see but feel every day. It's the absence of the soul while the body remains. It's the "I'm here" that means nothing. And there comes a point where even physical contact changes. There are no more caresses, or there's sex, but without soul. And that too is a sign, because intimacy isn't just about bodies, it's the purest expression of emotional connection. When that bond is broken, the body reflects it too. He either avoids you physically or acts with a strange intensity that doesn't fit, as if trying to cover up the absence of love with flashes of passion. As if desire were an excuse not to talk about what broke inside. And while all this is happening, you're still there, waiting for the man you love to return, hoping for the version of him that used to be more present, more engaged, more human. But that version is gone, because he has already started a journey outward without telling you. And that too is a form of betrayal, leaving without warning, abandoning without goodbye, disappearing without moving. And that journey often starts with small things, conversations with someone who flatters him, harmless exchanges on social media, messages that seem meaningless to you, but they do mean something because they're the beginning of an inner disconnection that starts to show outward. Because when he starts hiding things, he's already stepping out of the relationship. Even if his body still sleeps beside you, every secret is a closed door between you. It's hard to accept, but necessary. Because many women lose years of their lives trying to revive a relationship that already died in their partner's soul. They persist, they try, they justify, they blame themselves. But they don't see that he already decided to leave. He just lacks the courage to say it, because saying it would mean taking responsibility. And many would rather make you feel guilty than face their own emotional cowardice. And this is where self-deception becomes your greatest enemy, because you don't want to see, because it hurts too much to face the quiet abandonment head-on, because you still hope he'll change, that he'll come back. But here is the truth. When a man begins to betray, he does it first in his mind and in his energy. His body is just the last part to leave. Betrayal begins in the soul and ends in the bed, and this is the most important thing you need to understand. You are not the cause of his infidelity. It doesn't matter if you weren't perfect. It doesn't matter if you made mistakes. No one has the right to betray your trust just because they don't know how to manage their own frustration. An emotionally mature man speaks, takes responsibility, and faces you with the truth. He doesn't cowardly run into someone else's arms while you're still giving your whole heart to him. Infidelity begins in the soul, because that's where the decision not to be emotionally faithful is first made. Because being faithful is not just about not sleeping with someone else. Being faithful means caring for the bond, being present, choosing you, communicating, and honoring the emotional commitment. And when he stops doing that, the betrayal has already begun, even if there's no other woman yet, even if he still sleeps next to you. True fidelity is seen in intent, not just in the absence of physical evidence. So, if you feel something is broken, it probably has. If you feel alone in the relationship, it may be because he's already emotionally checked out. And the sooner you acknowledge that, the sooner you can decide whether you want to wait around for crumbs or pick up your dignity and choose your peace. Because you weren't born to beg for love, you were born to live it fully. It's not magic. It's not paranoia. It's perception. The body feels it before the mind understands it. And when a man starts to be unfaithful, emotionally or physically, he leaves signs, not because he wants to be caught, but because his energy can no longer sustain the lie. And there are patterns, behaviors that repeat in almost every case, even if the situations differ. And if you observe them clearly, without romanticizing, without justifying, you'll see that it was all there in front of you. Your intuition whispers what your eyes are not yet ready to see. Emotional absence disguised as routine or stress. It all starts when he becomes absent without leaving. He no longer listens, no longer seeks you out, no longer shows interest. His replies become cold or evasive. I've been really tired. I have a lot on my plate. I'm not in the mood. There's always an excuse, but the truth is, his energy is no longer with you. He begins to withdraw. He no longer shares how he feels, no longer tells you about his day, no longer asks how you're feeling. He starts treating you like a housemate instead of a partner. And when you try to get close, you hit an invisible wall. He becomes an emotional ghost hiding behind the routine. The house looks the same, the meals are served, but the soul of the relationship has vanished. Then come the digital secrets and defensive behavior. Where he once left his phone out in the open, now he guards it like a nuclear device. He changes his password, keeps it face down, takes it with him to the bathroom. If you ask something innocent like, "Who messaged you?" his reaction is over the top. "Why do you care? Are you checking on me? You're so jealous." And in that exaggerated defense is the confession. Because when there's nothing to hide, there's no reason to get angry. But when a parallel conversation begins, when a double emotional life is unfolding, the performance starts. He makes you feel invasive for simply following your intuition. He may even accuse you of being insecure, when in reality, he is the one breaking the trust. And that is emotional abuse, when someone twists your feelings just to avoid owning their actions. Changes in sexual intimacy. The bed doesn't lie. It may become cold or, on the contrary, unusually intense. Both extremes are signs. Some men, out of guilt, try to compensate with sudden, almost theatrical sex, as if trying to silence their internal betrayal with passion. Others simply disconnect. They no longer touch you, desire you, or feel you. Even the way he touches changes, mechanical. Without tenderness, without emotional connection, sex becomes a hollow transaction, or a way to maintain appearances, or worse, an act that makes you feel lonelier than ever. Because there is nothing more devastating than being touched without being truly felt. unnecessary arguments and meaningless conflicts. He starts picking fights over anything, a word, a gesture, a minor forgetfulness. Everything becomes a reason to argue, because he needs an excuse to pull away, because he needs to justify his distance, because if he paints you as the villain, he can convince himself that he has the right to look for something better. This is called projection. He accuses you of what he's doing, blames you for what he doesn't want to admit, turns you into the toxic one, the dramatic one, the one who just doesn't get it. And so while you exhaust yourself trying to keep the peace, he builds a narrative where you're the problem and he's the victim. He may even begin provoking you on purpose just to create conflict, because constant conflict gives him an internal excuse to justify his emotional disconnection. Instead of confronting his betrayal, he prefers to portray you as an unbearable woman. He removes you from his future plans. Where he once talked about traveling together, now he makes plans alone. Where it used to be us, now it's me. He no longer says your name when he speaks of his future, no longer includes you in decisions, no longer sees you in his long-term vision. And you feel it. You see how you slowly fade from his dreams. The shared goals disappear, the common path dissolves, there are no more future conversations, and if you bring it up, he changes the subject, gets annoyed, or avoids it, because in his mind, even if he hasn't said it out loud, you're no longer part of his story. He starts shifting the blame and emotionally manipulating you. This is the cruelest part. He begins to make you feel like you're wrong for being suspicious, like you're imagining things, like you're the one breaking the relationship with your insecurities. He starts distorting your perception. He disarms you with phrases like, "Why do you always think the worst? You can't even trust me a little. You're the one ruining this. You're going crazy." And slowly, your intuition starts to lose its voice. You don't know whether to trust your feelings. You wonder if maybe you're overreacting. You stay silent. You doubt. You wear yourself out. And in that silence, he gains ground, because while you doubt yourself, he continues deeper into his betrayal. And the saddest part is that many women adapt to emotional abuse, hoping it's temporary, hoping he'll go back to who he used to be. But that version of him is gone. Your intuition is your soul's radar. And if something feels different, it probably is. You don't need a photo, a message, or a witness. Because the deepest betrayal isn't seen with the eyes, it's felt in the soul. In a body that no longer vibrates the same. In a sadness that shows up without reason. In laughter that no longer comes naturally. In the empty gaze of a man who once felt like home and now feels like a stranger. If any of these signs are present, don't ignore them. Don't normalize what hurts. Don't justify what dims your light. True fidelity is something you feel, and when it's gone, you feel that too. Because at the end of the day, as Carl Jung said, what you resist persists, and resisting the truth you already know only prolongs your pain. There's a moment in many relationships when you no longer know if you're seeing reality or imagining it. When something deep inside you screams, but everything outside tells you you're overreacting, you're crazy, you're the one ruining things. That moment is the epicenter of emotional manipulation. It's when he's already started to leave, but refuses to admit it. When he's already disconnected, but doesn't want to look like the bad guy. So what does he do? He changes the mirror. He distorts your perception. He plants doubts in your heart so you won't see what, deep down, you already know. And he does it with subtle but deeply damaging phrases like, "You're imagining everything. You always think the worst of me. You're impossible to talk to now. You're overreacting. You're trying to control me." Little by little, what was once intuition becomes anxiety. What was once clarity becomes confusion. And you start apologizing for feeling. You stay quiet to avoid discomfort. You begin hiding your emotions as if they were mistakes. This kind of manipulation has a name, gaslighting. It's a form of emotional abuse where he makes you doubt your own reality. He makes you believe you're being irrational when in truth you're being intuitive. It's a psychological distortion. that undermines your self-confidence and dims your inner voice. And the most common way it operates is through avoidance. He avoids the conversation, withdraws, disconnects. And when you confront him, he responds with indifference, sarcasm, or anger, never with truth, never with vulnerability. Example, you say, "I feel like you're distant." He replies, "There you go again with your drama." You say, "It bothers me how you act around that woman." He answers, "So now I'm not even allowed to talk to anyone?" You say, "I feel lonely." He responds, "You're always complaining." In this way, every time you express your feelings, he turns it into an attack. Every time you try to get closer, he meets you with coldness or mockery. Until you learn to stay silent. Until you get used to indifference as if it were normal. Until you start believing that, yes, maybe you are being too much, but you're not. You're feeling. And that's valid. Because no one should make you feel guilty for having emotions, for asking questions, for seeking clarity. Carl Jung said that no one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And that's exactly what this manipulation tries to prevent, that you become aware of the darkness he's creating, that you confront him with truth. That's why he needs you to doubt. That's why he needs you to believe you are the problem. Another common tactic is silent comparison. Suddenly he starts talking about other women, saying someone else understands him better, listens to him without judging. And he doesn't do it to open an honest conversation. He does it to make you feel small, to weaken your self-esteem, to make you believe you're no longer enough. He might even play with your insecurities. You're being too sensitive lately. You've changed. You're not like you used to be. Don't be like that. It was just a joke. And so you start adapting. You start changing to please him, hiding what bothers you, trying harder, shrinking yourself so you won't lose him. And that's when you lose him even more and lose yourself in the process. Because emotional manipulation isn't about resolution, it's about control. It's about getting you to adjust to his discomfort, to excuse his mistakes, to become smaller so he doesn't have to face his own ego. And the most dangerous part is that he often does it with apparent calm. No yelling, no hitting. But there are gestures, silences, attitudes that break you from the inside. And the pain is just as real, or worse, because it becomes invisible to everyone but you. You know something's wrong because you can't speak without being interrupted anymore. You can't cry without feeling guilty. You can't say, "This hurts me," without hearing, "Stop being dramatic." And if someone asked you, "What's going on?" maybe you wouldn't know how to explain it, because there's no big scene, no proof, no clear drama. But there is a daily erosion of your self-worth, a slow collapse of your emotional safety. And the question is, how much longer will you let this continue? You weren't born to doubt yourself. You weren't born to beg for validation. You weren't born to silence your intuition every time someone doesn't know how to love you honestly. If a man can't handle an uncomfortable conversation, he's not ready for a real relationship. If a man needs to manipulate instead of taking responsibility, he's not emotionally mature. If a man turns your clarity into a problem, then he is the problem. Remember this, true love doesn't make you question your worth. True love doesn't silence you, it doesn't shrink you, it doesn't confuse you. If you're in a relationship where what you feel is more doubt than peace, more anxiety than trust, more fear than love, then it's not love. It's emotional dependency fueled by manipulation. Today is the day to reclaim your voice, to trust your perception again, to honor what you feel, even if no one else understands it. Because you do. And that's enough. A conscious woman doesn't need physical proof when her soul has already felt the abandonment, because the soul doesn't lie. It only gets tired of being ignored. There is a point in every painful story where the woman stops waiting. where she no longer looks for explanations, where she no longer needs proof. She simply wakes up. And that awakening hurts. Because it's not just about accepting that he no longer loves you the way he once did. It's accepting that you abandoned yourself too, that you stayed when he had already left, that you defended a bond where you were the only one still present. But that pain, though deep, is sacred, because it marks the beginning of your rebirth. Leaving yourself is not selfishness, it's emotional survival. It's understanding that a relationship where you have to beg for attention, for truth, for respect, is not love, it's dependency. It's fear disguised as hope. And you are not here to live from fear. You are here to learn to look at yourself with the same eyes you once hoped he would see you with. To become the woman who believes she's worthy, without needing to be chosen, to reclaim what you gave unconditionally, your time, your energy, your tenderness, because it's not your fault you loved, it's not your fault you trusted, but it is your responsibility to heal. And to heal, you must let go. Letting go is not hatred, it's not punishment, it's not closing your heart. Letting go is saying, I understand. I no longer need proof. I no longer want to justify the unjustifiable. I choose me. And that, woman, is the most powerful act you can do. Carl Jung said that freedom doesn't come when we change others, but when we stop reacting to their shadow. And that's exactly what you do when you stop asking someone to value you. You are stepping out of their emotional shadow. You are reclaiming your light. The intuition you ignored for so long now becomes your compass. That same intuition he tried to silence, that you yourself silenced, that intuition that always knew, is now your guide. And if you listen to it, it will lead you back to yourself. Because you don't need physical proof. You've already seen his absence, you've already lived his disinterest, you've already felt his indifference. That's enough. Because when the soul feels abandonment, there's no need for more. Now it's time to rebuild, to walk alone again without feeling like you're losing something. Because you're not losing, you're reclaiming. You're reclaiming your power, your dignity, your voice. You're done begging for what you deserve by right, mutual love, clarity, real presence. And yes, there will be days of nostalgia, days when you'll miss the good moments, days when you'll want to believe again. But on those days, remind yourself why you left. Remind yourself how you felt. Remind yourself what you silenced in the name of love. Then breathe and move forward. Because a woman who's been betrayed, if she doesn't break, she transforms. She becomes someone who no longer accepts half-loves, who no longer justifies absences, who no longer needs approval, who no longer waits, a woman who learned to see with her soul, and who no longer fears letting go of someone who already let go of her long ago. And if one day you love again, and you will, it'll be from a different place. From a version of yourself that's no longer afraid to say, this isn't enough. Who knows that peace is worth more than attachment? That self-love should never be sacrificed for someone else's love. So, today, don't cry for the one who didn't know how to care for you. You cry for yourself, for what you endured, for what you postponed, for what you deserved and didn't receive. Cry, and then wipe your face and carry on. Because this story is no longer his, it's yours. And you get to decide how it ends. You are not a victim, you are a woman awake. You are not hard to love. He simply wasn't ready to love with the depth that you love. You are not fragile, you are strong for feeling so much and still not hardening. And most of all, you are not alone. There are thousands of women waking up just like you, who are breaking out of self-deception, who are breaking invisible chains, who are learning to listen to themselves, to believe themselves, to rebuild, because it's no longer enough to survive. Today is the time to live in truth And to live in truth means letting go of who no longer resonates with you. It means closing cycles, even if they still hurt. It means believing in yourself, even when everything around you tells you to doubt. Trust. Trust your intuition. Trust that inner whisper that says, no more. Trust your path, even if it's uncertain, because in the end, every woman who chooses herself finds the most important kind of love, the one that comes from within. And to etch this into your soul, a conscious woman doesn't need to see the betrayal with her eyes when she's already felt it with her soul. Everyone tells you, if he's not reaching out, it's because he's not interested. That's a complete lie. A man's silence is much more complex than that. And if you don't understand what it really means, you'll keep misinterpreting everything. After years of helping women who wonder why he's not calling, why he doesn't respond to messages, why he disappears without explanation, I realized something that left me frozen. The problem isn't that they can't read the signs. The problem is that they've been taught to misread male silence. Since they were girls, they were told that if a man doesn't pursue you, it's because he's not interested. They were told that love is shown through constant communication. They were told that if he really loved you, he'd message you every day. And all these lies have made them interpret every silence as rejection, every pause as disinterest, every moment without a message as a sign that something is wrong. Today we're going to dismantle that confusion once and for all, because a man's silence is not random, nor is it a mystery without explanation. It's a clear signal, a reflection of what's happening inside him. And by the time you finish this video, you'll know exactly what to do when he doesn't reach out, without losing your center, your peace, or your personal power. Before you say, but I already know all this, let me ask you something. The last time he didn't message you for 2 days, did you keep your energy steady? Did you avoid checking your phone obsessively? Did you not start creating stories in your head about what could be happening? If your answer is no, then you need to stay until the end of this video. As Carl Jung says, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Stoicism can help you interpret his distance without losing your personal power. And here's what no one tells you about this ancient philosophy. It's not about becoming cold or insensitive. It's about staying centered while the world moves around you. This may sound harsh, but you need to hear it. Sometimes silence is an unconscious tactic to observe how you react when he pulls away. Not all men do it with bad intentions, but they do it. And here's the part that pains me the most to admit. It often works. Have you ever found yourself sending casual messages after he's gone quiet for days? How are you? Is everything okay? Haven't heard from you. You ask if he's all right. You explain why you haven't heard from him. You start justifying why you didn't text. If your answer is yes, he's seeing exactly what he wanted to see, that you're emotionally dependent on his attention. And here comes what truly breaks my heart. Many incredible, intelligent women, successful in their careers, completely lose their power when it comes to interpreting male silence. Women who run businesses, who raise children alone, who've overcome enormous obstacles, turn into insecure versions of themselves when he doesn't respond to a message. Some men, whether intentionally or not, distance themselves to see if you'll chase them and if your world crumbles in their absence. If you need them to feel okay, it becomes an unintentional psychological experiment where your reaction tells them everything they need to know about the power they hold over you. Here's what nobody tells you. Every time you react desperately to his silence, every time you shift your energy because of his absence, you're giving away a power he doesn't deserve. You're teaching him that he can control you without even being present. But here comes the most important part. Stoicism teaches that your value isn't defined by who reaches out to you. It's defined by how you stay centered when they don't. A woman who remains grounded when he doesn't call, who continues living her life normally, who doesn't shift her energy because of his absence. That woman is the one who truly holds power. Do you know what happens when a woman doesn't react to the silence? When he returns, because sooner or later he will, he finds someone who wasn't waiting for him. He finds a woman who kept living, working, creating, connecting. And that difference, believe me, he feels immediately. Tell me in the comments if you've ever gone through this. Have you ever felt like you had to prove you weren't needy right when you needed him the most? Because that inner contradiction is exactly where we lose our power. Now comes a truth that may hurt, but will completely set you free. Sometimes his silence is not a punishment or a manipulation. It's not about you at all. He's simply focused on his own goals, his own pursuits, or even his own distractions. He's prioritizing himself, and in many cases, that's exactly what he should be doing. Men have this ability to compartmentalize that's often hard for women to understand. They can be fully immersed in a work project, a family issue, a personal goal. And during that time, relationships take a backseat. Not because they don't care, but because that's how they process things. This can be incredibly frustrating, especially when you do have time for him, when you are thinking about him, when you make space in your day to message him, to check in, to maintain that connection. And he seems totally disconnected. But here's the revelation that changes everything. His silence is a perfect invitation for you to return to yourself. It's the universe saying, while he's in his world, build yours. When was the last time you went days without wondering if he messaged you? When was the last time you were so focused on your own projects that you forgot to check your phone for his texts? When was the last time you woke up excited about something you were going to do, not something you were hoping he would do? These questions are uncomfortable because they reveal just how much of our emotional well-being we've placed in someone else's hands. How much of our daily happiness depends on the attention we receive instead of the attention we give ourselves. You weren't born to orbit around anyone. You are your own universe, with your own goals, dreams, and priorities. You have a life to build, milestones to reach, people to love, experiences to live. While he's in his world, build yours. While he's silent, find your voice. While he's distancing himself, come closer to yourself. And here's what happens when you truly do this. When you genuinely focus on your own life, when he comes back, because eventually he will, he won't find a woman waiting for him. He'll find a woman who's busy, focused, with stories to tell, with projects to share, with an interesting life to invite him into. He'll find a woman who didn't need him to be happy, who didn't put her life on hold waiting for his attention, who didn't pause her world because he went silent. And that difference, believe me, he'll feel it instantly. Because there's a completely different energy in a woman who is happy on her own versus one who needs outside validation to be okay. Now we've arrived at the part no one wants to face, but we must, with courage. Yes, sometimes silence is disinterest, harsh, but true, and the sooner you accept it, the sooner you stop fighting against this truth, the faster you free yourself from illusions that only drain your energy. Here's what I've learned after years of watching women cling to men who clearly make no effort. Attachment is the real enemy, not loss. Attachment to an idea, to a potential, to what could be instead of what actually is. Do you know the difference between a woman who suffers for years over a man who doesn't value her and one who frees herself quickly? The second understands that if he leaves, it's because something better is coming. She doesn't waste time trying to convince someone to love her. She doesn't exhaust herself trying to prove her worth to someone who can't see it. The woman who frees herself quickly understands that true love doesn't require convincing, chasing, or losing yourself just to keep someone interested. And let me tell you something that might sound controversial, but is a truth you need to hear. A man who loses interest for no valid reason, who disappears without explanation, who lacks the decency to communicate his feelings, he's doing you a huge favor. He's showing you who he really is before you invest more time, energy, or hope. He's revealing his communication skills, his emotional maturity, his respect for you as a person. And if all of that is lacking, do Do you really want to build something serious with someone like that? The universe has strange ways of protecting you. Sometimes protection comes in the form of silence. Sometimes the best answer you can receive is no answer at all, because that absence tells you everything you need to know. Here's what happens when you shift your perspective on this. Instead of seeing his lack of interest as a personal failure, you start seeing it as valuable information. Instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" you begin asking, "What is this telling me about him?" But there's also this reality we can't ignore. Many men were never taught how to express emotions effectively. Their silence may be their way of processing stress, confusion, or even their own emotional immaturity. Society raises men to believe that vulnerability is weakness, that talking about feelings is for women, that they must solve everything alone. So when they feel emotionally overwhelmed, their automatic response is to withdraw, process in silence, disconnect temporarily. Here's what Stoicism teaches. Don't carry what isn't yours. His internal struggles, his inability to communicate, his way of dealing with stress, those are not your responsibility. You don't have to interpret everything as a personal rejection. Sometimes silence says more about his inner world than about your personal worth. A man might be going through anxiety and not know how to explain it. He could be dealing with depression and not want to drag you down with his low energy. He might be facing financial problems and feel like he can't be the man he wants to be for you until he fixes them. But here's the crucial point. Understanding all this doesn't mean you have to tolerate it indefinitely. Compassion does not mean blind acceptance. Empathy does not mean sacrificing your own emotional needs. Here's what is your responsibility: deciding whether you want to be with someone who handles their emotions that way. Deciding whether you can accept those periods of silence as part of who he is, or if you need someone with better emotional communication. Because understanding doesn't mean infinite tolerance. You can understand why someone acts a certain way and still decide that it's not compatible with what you need in a relationship. Now we come to the deepest and most transformative part. Instead of seeing his silence as an offense or a signal that you need to do more, ask yourself if this isn't the perfect moment to return to yourself, to grow, to focus on your path, your projects, your essence. This is the perspective that changes everything. His silence as an opportunity, his absence as an invitation, his distance as a space for you to grow. What would happen if, instead of asking, "Why isn't he reaching out?" you asked, "What can I create while he's not here?" What would happen if, instead of waiting for his message, you focused on sending messages of love to yourself? What if you used this time of silence to reconnect with friends you've neglected, to finish that course you left halfway through, to start that project you've been postponing, to get back to the gym, to read those books, to explore those hobbies you abandoned? Real power isn't about controlling others, it's about mastering your response to them. While he stays silent, you can become stronger, fuller, more interesting. While he's absent, you can become more present in your own life. I've seen women who used a man's silence as a catalyst to completely transform their lives. Women who launched businesses, went back to school, reconnected with friends, rediscovered passions they had buried because they were too focused on a relationship. And here's what happens when a woman transforms in his absence, when he returns and finds someone more powerful, more centered, more complete. The dynamic changes completely. You're no longer the woman who waits, you're the woman who chooses. Because here's a truth few understand. Men are drawn to women who have rich, full lives beyond them, not women who need them to feel whole, but women who want them, yet don't need them desperately. This may be the most important point of the entire video. Silence strips away distractions, leaves you alone with yourself, and that's where the essential question arises. The one that defines everything. Who are you when he doesn't respond? That question is brutal, but necessary, because it reveals exactly where your power lies and where you've given it away. Do you lose yourself when he doesn't respond? Do you feel empty? Do you start questioning everything about yourself? Do you become anxious, insecure, needy? Or do you meet a woman who is strong, centered, and complete on her own? The answer to that question determines everything. It determines how men see you. It determines the kinds of relationships you attract. It determines whether your power is real or borrowed. This is the difference between a woman who lives for male attention and a woman who lives from her own center. The first crumbles in silence. The second blooms in solitude. And here's what happens with those women. They rarely experience long silences because men can feel their energy. They sense that these women aren't desperate for attention, that they won't fall apart if no one reaches out, that they have a full, rich life beyond the relationship. Men can feel when a woman has options, when she isn't attached, when she can be just fine without them. And that energy is magnetic, and not from need, but from wholeness. The true battleground of Stoicism is not in conquering others, it's in conquering yourself. And when you do that, when you become your own source of validation, peace, and happiness, other people's silence stops being a threat and becomes an opportunity. But let me be honest with you. Getting to this point is not easy. It requires deep inner work. It requires facing your insecurities, your fears, your patterns of emotional dependence. It requires building a truly authentic relationship with yourself. Many women ask me, but how do I stop caring when he doesn't reach out? And I always tell them the same thing. It's not about not caring. It's about caring more about your peace than his attention. It's about building a life so rich, so meaningful, so full of purpose that his silence can't empty it. It's about having so many sources of joy, satisfaction, and connection that the absence of one doesn't destroy you. And here's what really excites me to tell you. When a woman achieves this, when she truly builds that internal solidity, it doesn't just change her relationship with men, it changes everything. Her relationship with work, with friends, with family, with herself. Because the same power that allows you to stay centered when he doesn't reach out is the same power that helps you negotiate better at work, set healthy boundaries with your family, and choose friendships that truly nourish you. Now that you know the 6 real reasons behind male silence, we reach the question that really matters. What will you do with this information? How will you apply it to your real life? Because understanding is only the first step. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. Transformation is real when you change how you respond, when you integrate these principles into your daily life. Here's what I want you to do the next time he doesn't reach out. I want you to pause before picking up the phone, before sending that casual message, before creating stories in your head. I want you to take a deep breath and ask yourself, what do I need right now? Not what you need from him, but what you need. Do you need peace? Do you need movement or exercise? Do you need to call a friend? Work on that project. Take time for yourself. And then I want you to do that. I want you to give yourself what you need instead of waiting for him to give it to you. Because here's the magic. When you become your own source of care, attention, and validation, when you treat yourself the way you deserve to be treated, you naturally start attracting people who treat you the same way. His silence is not a command to go chasing him. It's an invitation to return to yourself. Every time he doesn't reach out and you stay centered, every time he doesn't reply and you remain focused on your life, every time he disappears and you don't disappear from your own existence, you are building something no one can take from you, your personal power. And here's something I want you to understand on a deep level. This power isn't just about attracting better men. It's about living better. It's about sleeping peacefully, waking up excited for your day, making decisions from clarity instead of fear. Because listen, one thing is to intellectually understand that you shouldn't chase a man who doesn't pursue you. But it's something entirely different to feel that truth in your bones. To feel that you truly deserve someone who puts in effort, who communicates with you, who doesn't leave you guessing about his intentions. And here's what I've noticed in every woman who goes through this transformation. They stop justifying behavior they used to tolerate. They stop making excuses for men who don't prioritize them. They stop settling for crumbs of attention when they deserve the whole feast. Do you know what's the most liberating part of all this? When you stop chasing someone who doesn't look for you, You instantly make space for someone who will. When you stop pouring your energy into one-sided relationships, that energy stays with you and you use it to build something better. I've seen women come back to me after applying these principles saying, "I can't believe I used to tolerate so much silence. I can't believe I once panicked over the attention of someone who clearly wasn't interested. I can't believe my self-worth used to depend so heavily on male attention." And that is the real transformation. You don't just change how you react to silence. You change what you're willing to accept. You raise your standards. You change your relationship with yourself. Because here's a truth you need to carve into your heart. The woman who stays firm, without begging, without giving up, without losing herself, is the woman no man ever forgets. Not because she's hard to get, but because she's impossible to replace. Do you know why she's impossible to replace? Because she's not following a script she learned to attract men. She's simply being authentically herself. She's living from her truth, from her power, from her center. That kind of authenticity can't be faked. It can't be copied. It can't be replaced. Because it comes from years of inner work, self-discovery, learning how to value herself without needing external validation. When a woman knows her worth, when she doesn't panic for attention, when she can be fully content on her own, she radiates an energy that draws people in effortlessly, not from manipulation, but from authenticity, not from need, but from wholeness. And I want you to know something important. Not every woman arrives at this point at the same time. Some need to go through painful experiences to awaken to their power. Others realize it right away. Both paths are okay. The important thing isn't how long it takes, it's that you intend to get there. That each day you make choices that bring you closer to becoming that powerful, centered woman. The one who doesn't beg for love because she knows she deserves it without asking. His silence might be a test, a distraction, an internal conflict, or just plain disinterest. But your response to that silence is what defines who you are. It determines whether you come out of this weakened or empowered. And here's what I've seen over and over again. Women who use their challenges as opportunities for growth, who see obstacles as training grounds, who transform pain into power, those women become unstoppable, not just in love, but in everything. Because the skills you build to stay centered during a man's silence are the exact same skills that make you thrive in every area of your life. The ability to not take things personally, to keep your self-esteem independent of other people's actions, to stay focused on your goals regardless of outside distractions. So next time he doesn't reach out, instead of asking yourself what you did wrong, ask yourself what you can do right. Instead of waiting for him, find yourself. Instead of chasing him, build a life so interesting that he wants to be part of it, not out of need, but out of admiration. Instead of asking, "Why isn't he texting me?" ask, "What can I create today?" Instead of checking your phone obsessively, check your goal list obsessively. Instead of analyzing his last words, analyze your next steps. Because at the end of the day, it's not about decoding male silence. It's about building an inner world so strong, so rich, so complete that no one else's silence can shake it. It's about creating a life so full of purpose, passion, and joy that no person's absence could ever drain it. It's about being so whole on your own that anyone who enters your life is a bonus, not a necessity. And that doesn't mean becoming cold or closed off to love. It means the opposite. It means loving from a place of fullness, not lack. It means offering the best of you because you have so much to give, not because you're hoping to receive something in return. When you reach that point, when you truly live that way, you'll realize that the power was always within you. You just needed to remember it. You just needed to reclaim it. You just needed to decide that you deserve to be loved the right way, by someone who chooses to stay, not by someone you have to convince. I'd love to know which of these 6 insights resonated most with you. Have you experienced any of these situations? Did you recognize yourself in any of these dynamics? Share your story in the comments because your experience could help another woman going through the same thing. Don't be afraid to be honest. We've all been there. We've all lost our power at some point. The difference is choosing to take it back. Remember, you didn't come into this world to be someone's option. You came to be your own priority. You didn't come to beg for love. You came to radiate so much self-love that you naturally attract those who know how to value you. Your power is not in the hands of someone who reaches out or doesn't. Your power is in your hands. Use it wisely. If this message helped you see male silence from a new perspective, if it gave you real tools to hold on to your personal power, give it a like and share it with that friend who needs to hear this, because together we're stronger.